Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to some Afreeca Champions Cup casting. This is an event run by Afreeca on Afreeca TV over the most recent weekend, so it was run on November 4th through 6th. And yeah, we have ourselves a match from Group A of the tournament, so I'm going to kind of work my way through the groups, just kind of picking and choosing what I feel are the most interesting matches to potentially upload on my YouTube and stuff, basically. And just kind of focus on those at first, and then maybe backtrack and do some other ones if we do kind of want to do more at some point. So this is a match from Group A. It is the winners match, and it is Solar taking on Clem in a best-of-3 TvZ, of course. So this was a group also with a Laser and Hero Marine, I believe, and I would actually, again, cast the entirety of this group, but I want to be kind of selective about what I cast, because oftentimes when I do, catch-up matches like this, I find myself in this kind of situation where I'm like, I kind of find myself where I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to cast this entire group, and then I run out of time and don't get any time to cast any of the other games. So I'm just trying to really pick out what I feel is maybe the best matches I really want to get covered, and then kind of, like I say, maybe backtrack later on or so if we really do want to cover even more of it. But for now, I just want to dip our toes into this TvZ. I thought Clem and Solar is always a fun one, especially in an important tournament. I mean, this tournament's got a lot of prize money and EPT points on the line, most importantly, I think. So it's got $4,000 prize pool for first place. It's 15k total. And with EPT points, it's obviously quite important because it can affect your TvZ rankings, and that's obviously something that we're going to talk more and more about going into next year. Because obviously, TvZ is very soon. So it's going to be happening very, very soon. So definitely something for us to keep our eyes on, at the very least. The Queen on the way here from Solar as we get started out. Clem with a command center coming down as well, and really nothing too wild about the opening here. It is a Reaper into a Marine. Clem is playing extremely standard to start out with, so really absolutely no surprise there. Clem loves his standard TvZ, of course. He really believes in his ability to play TvZ, so why would he necessarily do anything too wonky? I think Clem and Solar match up well against each other. Solar oftentimes can play fast enough to keep up with Clem and to really keep Clem back. The run-bys to kind of keep him busy and everything. I feel like these two always make a good match for each other. That's why I kind of jumped on this one as our first match to cast today. Seemed like a good bit of fun as we just have the Reaper poking around onto the hatchery and just having a little look to see what exactly is going on. Nothing really too wild early, but like I say, just information is everything. And obviously knowing that nothing too crazy is happening is very important, just as much as anything else. There's additional drones on the way out. Playing speed building. And yeah, Solar's also just playing, like I said, standard, so is Clem. 3rd CC from Clem. He loves the 3CC and TvZ, of course, because it opens him a whole bunch of pathways into just nice, solid, macro-focused games. And that's exactly the kind of stuff that Clem wants to be playing. Clem wants to be playing macro. He wants to be playing the long games. That's where he excels. That's where his multitasking can absolutely gain the chance to shine, right? So 100% of the time, it's exactly what Clem wants to be doing. No surprise he will play 3CC a lot. The dangerous part of Clem is he's very good at dealing with the kind of aggression to stop him from getting into that 3CC macro game. So it's not like you can just go roach rushing him and expect to find, a huge amount of success or anything. Even here on Waterfall, which is one of the most successful Roach Rush maps because of its size, you look at it and it's like, yeah, it's short. It should generally be very good for a Zerg player if they wanted to be aggressive, if they want to stop a Terran player getting into 3CC. And yet Clem goes into it so confidently, and not even that, builds a Raven as well, which is really not something which you typically go for when you're playing a... It really isn't something you go for when you're playing this kind of a matchup, right? It's something you can add in every now and again, but it doesn't keep you safe at all a lot of the time. And it's really meant as more of a harassing unit, so definitely has quite a bit of impact. On being able to clean out creep, etc. But it doesn't help you if you get roach rushed, and that's the big deal. So Clem just feels super confident is what I'm trying to say. And confident to kind of get himself in a good position, a position he can just harass in, macro in, and play a good, nice game in as this factory is going to relocate off the reactor. We're done with building Hellions. and starting to make way for those barracks to start producing. Engineering bays will follow to start up the 1-1 upgrades. I'm just going to be seeing the few Hellions still pottering around the right-hand side with the Raven as well, looking to make their way down into that third and maybe find a bit of run-by damage. I love one Hellion just left at home just in case of a slow, a low link count. And even auto turret here. One of the nice things about the Raven outside of the creep clearing without scanning is its ability to drop the auto turrets, and that allows you to skirmish more with the queens because you're not giving up Hellion HP, you're giving up the auto turret HP. So that little bit of burst damage against the queen is nice, but also just it tanking for the Hellions can give you a chance to fight with queens a bit more than you usually might. That, I think, especially is a pretty big deal. That, I think, is something which Clem is really good at when he plays this style. He first played this, I remember it was 2 years back now, I think. It was 2,000 Atmospheres, it was Clem versus Raynor, and he played this kind of 10 Hellion Raven Open, and I was like, wow, it was so sick. Like, it was something we hadn't really seen back then, and it really was kind of new and fresh, and I was like, whoa. And since then, it's just been sprinkled in, not every series, but it's kind of had its ups and downs in general. Right now, it has a bit of an up. We see it a bit more, but yeah, it's just something that Clem does like to fall back on because, again, it gives him control of the game early. And that's what Clem loves to have. Control of the game early with the potential of taking the game later, where the all these things that basically emphasize his ability to multitask and out-macro his opponent. Now, it would be unfair to not talk about what Solar is doing in this game. 1-1 and roaches. So he's just going to try and hit a big time here. Typically off of 67 workers that she's sitting on right now is typically a good enough number. So get onto that worker count and then obviously be able to build on up and just hit with a big roach attack. Like I say, map is small, so it's quick to move across. A lot of open space toward the third. Yes, you've kind of got to go around the edges, but that generally doesn't stop the Zerg plays too much with the roach attack, so yeah, let's see if Solar can indeed find success with this. If he doesn't deal some damage with it, then he generally is going to be in trouble. Playing a roach-based style for the rest of the game is going to be very difficult. As our CC is going to be coming to the front, the Lings come forward, the Hellion gets killed. And the rest of our medevacs, Marines moving down to the bottom, Raven coming down as well, and the Queen gets a couple of shots off on that Raven as well. Hellions on the top, just going to get rid of these few Zerglings. The Biles don't really do much. I thought he was going to try and bow down that Widow Mine straight away. Fourth base of Clem will die. I mean, quite frankly, fourth base shouldn't be being built right now. It's meant to be all about defense, and he's not really got much of it available. Tell you what could work for Clem, an anti-armor missile slap bang in the middle of those roaches would just make them melt to the Marine fire, and that could make the difference here in a battle. He has got Raven energy, and I don't know what else you'd use the Raven for. Maybe a couple of auto turrets to buy some time. As the anti-armor missile's going to strike everything, things should melt here. SCVs will pull. Generally, you can afford to lose SCVs in this because you're going to end up on a way better army at the end of the day. The Hellbats are still around as well. They're the Hellions from earlier, of course. Yeah, with a surround here, Clem actually does get a chance to clean up a lot of these units. A lot of Roach Ravager fallen, but so did a lot of Clem's army and also workers. But these units are trapped, so the last few Ravagers and Roaches will go down. They kind of managed to turn their way around the corner there and somewhat get out of trouble, but that's a big deal because they really should have just been killed, and that's actually really going to make life a little bit more difficult here if you're Solar now, because you don't quite have the extra surge of power off this attack that you maybe were wanting. Like I say, Clem lost some SCVs, but he's still in an okay overall worker position. He's got mules on his side as well, remember. As he cranks out 2 tanks at a time, you've got to imagine that Clem is going to have an okay time here against future Roach attacks, which is kind of what Solar is still doubling down on. He's finally now going to add on a few extra drones and extractors. Looks to the future, but he's still not done anything like adding on 2-2 upgrades. He's not adding on a Baneling Nest to switch into Ling Bane Roach. These are all things which Solar would typically want to do before playing a longer game here. Nice to come around this right side. Knocking down this entire depot wall is actually going to put Clem in a bit of a supply block. It's a lot of value you find very quickly. And Clem wasn't really positioned to defend that location, right? Because he was more set up on where he was attacked previously. Now he's going to be a bit more kind of doubled down defending the third in general. As the tank count gets higher, you can just do that much more easily. As man, is that Bioforce so large. I mean, there's just so many Marines, and there's a few Hellbats still for tanking purposes as well. Solar for now will take a chance to back away to the center of the map. Peel back around the side, just going to see Solar is going to find a triple kill on those siege tanks. He actually didn't bile in the middle of them, so actually didn't do as much as it should have done. He shouldn't have had a single shot from those tanks at all going off. The Liberators have to get biled as well. A lot of stacking up of the army of Clem means that the biles are obviously always fantastic. And Clem is once again going to turn this around. It didn't start well for him. This is the Raven. I think that was just harassing with auto turrets across the map. That's where the couple killed drones on the side of the screen came from. The Ravagers forcing the Marines back just one more time, and just going to be having our Marines pulling back again as now the Roach Ravager force of Solar still sits just out in the center of the map. Ravager goes down, Roach is coming in from a surround. A couple of tanks going to be in some trouble as one tank gets knocked down already. Roach is looking to overwhelm this position as Clem comes on his counterattack here. 2-2, by the way, not quite done, sorry. It's +2 attack done for Clem. I thought it was 2-2, but +2 attack from Clem is still nice, and the lack of wall here means the Ling's streaming much more easily than before, but Clem was on his way back, so we'll lose the Sensor Tower. Not much else. Shouldn't take any further damage at the very least, so that is at least a saving grace. Marines want to try and get on top of those Ravagers. Not quite really able to make much of an impact there, so Clem kind of back to the defending of, back at home. His supply not looking too hot. I mean, word count-wise, still okay. I guess I'm still just worried for Solar, the fact that it's purely Roaches, but Clem's getting a 4th base. Okay, I feel like Solar still is in a fine spot as long as he still does more with the next attack. He set himself up well enough that the next attack should still be successful. But if the next attack gets kind of battered down and pushed back immediately, Solar is going to be in a bad place, because then he really is stuck with a lack of tech and not really the army he wants for that stage of the game. And Clem has got a lot of tanks spread out, but they're getting corrosive biled pretty quickly, so not getting many shots off. The Marine count doesn't look good enough just yet. He starts to pull back. He really wants these Marines to get on top of the Ravagers, which just die that little bit more quickly here. And tank shot after tank shot has not been enough so far. We've got a Planetary to help hold the high ground. Solar decides he's not going to commit up there. Really not a bad choice, to be fair. I think very smart to instead play down on this, low ground and maybe look elsewhere for the attack. He gets rid of another siege tank here. Now going to swing around the other side. Again, just trying to look for the potential openings, the potential opportunities that lie in this game at the moment. I'm just still trying to find a defense. With this amount of Ravagers, though, it feels like every time Solar attacks, he is able to get rid of a lot of the tanks. The Medivacs are there as well. I saw that happening from a mile away. A couple of Medivacs go down at the same time as a tank. Uh-oh, Clem. As Marines having to pull back here. His Medivac's almost all out of energy as well, so healing is becoming a problem. Tank shots are good. Man, only really Ravagers left. That's where the Marines perhaps really can go chasing and do very well. The no second Carapace upgrade really sucks for Solar. It's really draining him quite heavily now. Another tank sieged up, just going to be seeing our Marines having to stem back here, pull back one more time. Solar's still attacking in. The Marines, I think, are going to overwhelm, and Solar's actually going to leave the game because he was super all in on winning the game with these Roaches, and this attack was finally being properly held off and unable to do enough, and that means that Clem is able to pick up a Game 1 victory in this best of 3. Wow. I mean, honestly, just kind of wow. Pretty crazy game, honestly. Roach 1-1 attacks do kind of go like this, right? Where it feels like the Zerg's doing it, but the Terran's just holding on. It really is never over until the Terran is completely broken and you're really pushing a third base back as the Zerg player, because the Terran army at some point just scales to the point where the Zerg can't deal well with it. And I do wonder if Solar had the +2 Carapace, if that would have made a difference, because some of these fights really came down to Marines pushing back Roach Ravager. That's obviously made way more potent by the fact he had a +2 attack upgrade versus +1 armor. If there was +2 armor there for Solar, I wonder if that maybe would have just surged things slightly in his favor. That push then continues forward a little bit longer, another tank or two goes down, and it has that knock-on effect for the next fight as well. Definitely feels like a possibility, right, if nothing else, so GG's. Clem opens with a 1-0 lead. Alright, taking the lead in the top right-hand side, our blue Terran player here will be Team Liquid's Clem. And in the bottom left-hand side from On-Site Gaming, our red Zerg player is Solar. I cast in group by group or just some games along the way. I'm just going to go in order of the groups, and I'm just picking... I'm not casting everything, though. I'm literally just picking kind of matches I like the look of and names I can clickbait on YouTube. Pretty much. I'll probably cast a lot of Group C, obviously. I'll probably not cast any of Group B, the Terran versus Terran group. I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to cast like a lot of these games, so I'm just trying to be pretty selective with the matches that I do cast to get through the ones I absolutely want to cover, you know? Catch, gas, pool, all on the way out. A couple of drones coming into play. I was just going to see our Reaper and our Orbital on the way out here from Clem, and we'll be interested to see Clem. He dare to see pretty hefty big map as well, right? So be interested to see if he wants to play a 3cc again, or if he does mix it up at all. To me, this is the kind of map Clem should be playing 3cc on. It makes a lot of sense, right? It seems absolutely fine to do it here. So yeah, I would be kind of surprised if he didn't. But there is power in... There's absolutely power in kind of building up and switching things up and sometimes mixing in aggression when it's least expected, right? Reaper pinging the hatchery is going to help up into the natural expansion and go after a little bit of damage here, see what it can do. Couple lings running in, Reaper backs it up. I'm just going to be seeing a little bit of back and forth for the moment. So far, so good. Ling's still taking some hits, and the Queen there to push the Reaper back away down the low ground. Factory will be finishing, so getting that factory finished. CC on the way up as well. All this still being brought into play. So yeah, I'm going to see our third CC. Again, no surprise. I would be surprised, I think, if you played the Raven again. I think that's something which you kind of play once in a series and not twice. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Banshee follow-up this time, for example, so that there's still a bit of variety in the build, even if it is just 3cc. I'm going to macro, I'm going to build things right. Just having that little bit of variety can still go a pretty long way, so I'll still be kind of down just to see maybe something different from the Raven. Not that the Raven was bad last game, not that it didn't really fill its role, just that, like I say, variety is kind of the spice of life, right? And it can go a long way for you competitively to stay kind of, keep variable despite the, want to kind of play what you feel is maybe most comfortable. It's going to be a Banshee from Clem this time. Banshee first, we'll see if he does add Cloak. It's very rare you see a Banshee without Cloak nowadays from TvZ. It used to be like a safety Banshee was quite the kind of thing to go into, but I think nowadays Terran's just like, man, there's so much opportunity if I go Cloak Banshee. Usually nowadays you only go for a cloakless one if it's scouted and you're super convinced the defense is going to be absolutely like, hex perfect pretty much from the Zerg players, so why then bother, just get one Banshee, use it for defense and just transition into the rest of your game more quickly. Cloak's just a cheap upgrade as well, right? It doesn't take a lot to invest into it, and it's, if you're good with the Banshees as well, yeah, you might not do damage straight away, but there's going to be opportunities later in the game as well if you can keep the Banshees alive and keep them alive, keep them going for a while longer. So yeah, that's why Cloak's pretty good. This is going to be a scout, but I don't think Clem's going to back away from it. He will double down on the continued Banshee production, and of course then the Cloak and Stim to follow it up as well. So ready in that bio play beyond this little bit of Hellion Banshee starting action. Queens get there. Hellions are turned around pretty much immediately. So we've seen the Queens coming in forward and try to replace some of the creep that the Hellions are trying to deny. As Banshee shows up early, says the Queens are out of position so I can get some kills, and he does grab a couple straight away, so not a bad call at all to just get in there straight away and to start dishing out a little bit of damage. The sooner you get some kills, the better it's going to be for you, of course. Well, Rack's dropping down. Just going to be seeing the few Lings. The Evo Chamber will continue out as well at the moment. Just going to be seeing our Banshees again on the bottom side, trying to figure out what they want to do. And turn back around and start working on this hatchery, which is going to get cancelled. A drone just likely to fall. Meanwhile, the Lings get here. A couple of Marines get picked off. The Hellions get through and going to aim for those drones. And oh my goodness, these Lings need to save the day. The Hellions. Oh my god, honestly, I would have liked them to just keep chasing instead of stopping for the Lings again. Okay, I don't think it's going to be all that bad in the end. Some stacking now, but there's not enough Hellions left. And at the same time, there's a Ling run by in the natural, so we do lose multiple SCVs. 8 workers going down. It is an expensive trade. That is going to come at quite the cost as these Banshees come through. And the hatchery is going to fall. Well, exciting few moments. Clem, if he didn't take that eco damage, would have probably been absolutely loving his position. Now it's a bit awkward because it was eco damage for eco damage. He gets the 4th, but he's lost his Hellion, so he's lost a bit of his map control and a bit of his safety here. That's also what opened, obviously, the possibility of Solar counterattacking. The Hellions attacking in means no defense for the to stop the Lings from getting in as well. Well, Lings and our Banes continue up right now. Just going to be seeing a couple of Banshees being repaired by a couple of SCVs. Just seeing Marines of Clem working their way down to the bottom of the map now. One upgrades, Groove Spines will continue. Just seeing the Ling Bane still in production. The Balance Speed's about to finish up as our Widow Mines begin to burrow and... well, see what happens next. Marine still just coming up on the top side. Still got a few more units on the bottom and just going to press forward a little bit. Marines will come forward here again. Keep going down. Just going to be seeing the other couple tumors line up well. He's trying to get on top of those queens if at all possible, but not quite able to. And it's a little bit of pressure from Clem, not really going to go anywhere for the moment. Looks like Solar is going to be pretty solid on the defense. Start to borrow up a couple of Widow Mines here and there. So Bane's going off, Marines taking damage, Marines trying to fire up as well. I'm just going to be seeing the Ling Bane pulling back from Solar back over the left-hand side. Infestation Pit is going to be finishing from Solar as well. High Lurker Den will start up. This is not good. These Widow Mines are killing more Marines than they are Zerglings. Their friendly fire has been brutal on this position. So Clem not really able to break through at all as we see the Lurker Den coming through. The Hive-Vis building. Just going to be seeing our 2-2 upgrades continuing. And here are the Banshees. And a couple more drones. So again, worth keeping these Banshees around because they can be used later in the game. When you're as good as Clem, retention of units is absolutely key to finding as much value as possible against a Zerg to really try and throw them off their game. And to really try and just knock them down at any possible opportunity. Marines step onto the edge of Freed. They're going to have to be careful. He has these Lings come running forward. Marines load up the medevacs and will take them back away to the upper right side. Through the top, Widow Mines and Marines will press on through. A Hellion morphs into a Hellbat. As the mines burrow, going to start target firing. We do see a couple Hydras going down. A lot of Widow Mines going off. Oh goodness, a lot of Zerglings getting knocked down here as we continue to chase into the Ling Bane Hydra. Marines continue to try and escape up the side, and well, Marines do load back into the medevac. Solar Well, look at him go. He's got a lot of supply on the back end of this, and just good defense, and boy, is he just taking over the map. Clem, gonna have to start playing a bit of a kind of a long-term game plan here. You know, you see a Widowmine burrowing up at the front. He's going to go after a few of the Zerglings already. We've got more Marines. Just continue to kite backwards as the Lings and the Bane continue to chase. Target fight is the Baneling, but I mean, do you really want to stand here and fight against these Lings? Well, eventually he decides it's just not worth it anymore. He's not putting out enough damage to justify sitting there and taking the damage himself, but lost a medevac in the process, lost a good amount of the Marines. Pushing back on the top side here. Solar's already quick to rotate. His units were moving there immediately. And it's only getting better for Solar upgrade-wise. Hive is done, so we're seeing the Adrenal Glands and +3 Carapace starting. And the Vipers are coming in as well, so he's getting a lot of attack off the Hive. That's going to aid him in this. As, uh-oh, Clem needs to be careful here. These fights also happening with Clem only on 1-1, so down on upgrades. Makes it just a little bit tougher for Clem to find the efficiency that you're typically looking for as a Terran. Hence the only, 500 resource advantage? I mean, we're used to seeing Terrans at 1.5 to 3k advantage at this point of the game. 500 is not really a lot to talk about, so kind of shows how good Solar has been in some of these fights. This fight's a bit better for Clem, though. Catching units from the bottom side, none of the Banelings really getting to connect. That is exactly the kind of fight that Clem's looking for, and that really should give him a bit more of a standing in this game. A chance to clean out some creep spread now and just take some control away from Solar. Look at that resources lost tab, a 3k difference. Yes, I mean, I was just talking about it, right? I mean, 500's not a lot. Take a fight that makes it 3,000, then yeah, okay, we might just about be okay then. Very cool. Well, these Marines maybe need to be a bit careful about how far forward they went. If they went too far, obviously they can be punished, as now Bio going to go running over the left-hand side. A few Widowmines. Going to get some action with some Banelings there. Widowmines and Banes both dying, but this attack is going to catch Solar completely out of position for once. Solar was not able to get back over here in time to really make a difference. A lot of drones going down, so his economy going to be hurting. And as Lings and Hydras continue to flood on forward from Solar, will it be enough to actually clean this out? Another Widowmine going down. Bane's still rolling forward here. The medevac's loading up. Uh-oh, Parasite Bomb. The medevac's are all low. We're going to have to just unload with this medevac. I think he knew he was going to die, but he didn't want to go in the main base for whatever reason, because he was going to be close to the other medevacs, and as a little bit of indecision from Clem, the full medevac of Marines and Marauders dies. This Widowmine does connect, into the Bio, although the Bio was already dying, so maybe not that big of a deal. Once again, he's struggling to get Widowmine shots that are always helping him. There's a lot of Widowmines that are really going the other way. With 15 drone kills on the side of your screen, Solar is still at a worker lead. It's back and forth over the last minute or two. It's actually started to trend back towards Solar's favor after that initial horrendous fight. 2k difference on the resources lost. That's pretty much the main thing that we're tracking here. Most importantly, Solar is about to have lurkers, and Solar is an absolute beast when it comes to lurker play. It's probably his strongest portion of the ZVT matchup, and this is about to get a whole lot more difficult for Clem. He begins his ghost production, is going to need to lean on those heavily in the upcoming battles, because without the ghosts, he is a sitting duck for those lurkers. Liberator has a very good time, kills 3 Hydralisks before it dies. If every Liberator could kill 3 Hydras, I think we'd just play Mass Liberator in this matchup. That would be a pretty reasonable way to go about things, I guess. Nidus Worm into the main, so that's Solar actually trying to utilize the Lurkers. The first time he uses them, if he's on the Nidus, Clem might not be ready for it. I think Clem is starting to fight it, not sure with how much. Parasitic Bombs on the medevac's going to get a couple kills again. Forcing Clem to split in this 5th base is going to get ransacked. There is something happening in the main on the Nidus attack. Let's see and have a look. Okay, it looks like it got dealt with, so nothing really came of that. So the Nidus denied very handily. I'm just seeing the CC is pulling away for the moment. Lings, Hydras, Banes continuing through and just having ourselves the next little while of seeing what's going to happen here. We'll just see another liberation zone setting up right now. That comes back to the top. Nidus will get knocked down. Other Bio units coming through. Ling Bane will go rolling forward, and the Widowmine gets burrowed. A couple Banes crash in, knocking that Widowmine down immediately. Marauders continue to hit. Parasitic Bomb is active, and I mean, again, a lot of medevacs getting knocked on down. Marines go for cancel here. This hatchery will be killed. Nice in the top. Hatchie gets up and a few lurkers will burrow. That's a problem for Clem. It isn't his main base, so it's not going to be his production that gets camped, but he will lose engineering base. He actually doesn't have +3 armor, so actually engineering bases are still somewhat useful if he'd ever started it. And just annoying to deal with that well. You know, again, it's difficult to shut it down, although the Lib's doing a pretty good job. Clem just gets rid of a base of Solar. Boy, are these two just swinging punches at each other, and they're just kind of standing there and taking them one after the other. Clem down about 30 workers, but his army supply looking pretty strong. Being chased right now. He's going to try and evacuate the ghosts, whichever ones he can. He's too successful in his endeavor. Slugger in the back gets picked off. Just going to be seeing the bio unloading again. Ling's continuing to be picked away at now. 10 SCVs fallen. Some big losses. It's just a state as well where Clem doesn't have like a ton of workers either, right? So losing 10 actually does add up a bit, and he's been struggling for 5th base especially. That's one of the main things I think Solar's going to really, you know, take this game home with him because without the 5th base, Clem I think really cannot get into quite the economy that he needs to keep churning out units. Solar has lost bases and he's taken hits. It's not exactly easy for him either, but as long as Clem hasn't had a 5th, the damage that Solar's taken has almost been damage that Clem needed to do to stay alive, more so than damage he's done to try and win the game, you know? So it does feel like it's a game of Clem having been hanging on more than anything else so far. More Lings and Banes and Vipers around the right-hand side. In they go. We don't might as well fire. It's going to be seeing the Parasite bomb off on a Medevac, and Medevacs will split away. Ling's still going in after a few of these SCVs, so SCVs are taking a few shots. We're actually going to snipe stuff on the Vipers, though, so clearing up a little bit of the tech of the Zerg player. Again, Clem needs to just hold on to that 5th base. Hold on to the economy there. Keep on mining, and with that, he might just give himself somewhat of a shot. Let's take bomb again on the Medevacs as man, more SCVs going down. These Marines, oh my goodness, Clem didn't see it, so he doesn't split in time, and units are coming in from all angles here. This means that Clem is actually having a really bad fight, and he is losing out on a lot. No Viper, otherwise he could have killed both those Medevacs that are low HP and full of units. Either way, though, 27 workers. The base goes down. I've talked repeatedly about the importance of the 5th, and well, it's just being killed again, right? And now all these mines go down. It's another 10 to 15 supply of Clem that just disappears. And suddenly Clem is absolutely looking worse for wear. Solar has been in pretty much control of this game from the start. I think right now is absolutely in position to most likely close this out. Very fun game, though. Back and forth a long time. Solar really was taking a lot of hits, but like I say, it wasn't really hits for Clem to start winning the game. It was hits from Clem to keep him in the game, right? And that definitely has, you know, quite the impact. That definitely has, you know, quite a bit of difference in it. And there's this Liberator Siege, and this Bioforce is going to stem again. Lings and Banes already coming forward here, running on through. So in we go. Clem just not going to have enough at all. GG's will be called. And that is going to be Solar taking the victory here for game number 2, tying this up 1-1. In the top right side of the map, our Blue Terran player from Team Liquid. Give it up if you're cheering on Clem. Bottom left, our Red Zerg player is from Onside Gaming, Solar. One of the reasons I wanted to cast this is because they're playing in the World Team League against each other tomorrow. So I kind of wanted to get an idea of how these games were looking in this event. So, you know, maybe it helps me a little bit casting the World Team League tomorrow. You know, otherwise someone's going to be like, oh, dude, this is how they played in the Afreeca Cup. Didn't you watch it? Have you got no passion? So now I'm not going to be in trouble. Can't get in trouble at Twitch chat. You know, that's a good one. I am so powerful. Alright, let's have a peek around, as apparently we're looking around the map here a little bit. Burning building. I don't think we're actually allowed to mention what that is in official EPT cast, but if you watched the TLMC way back when, you'll remember what sign was on that building and what it was insinuating and the original name of this map. Yes. So yeah, just getting set up. Getting ready to go. And we'll watch Reaper coming across the map here early to try and make something happen. Gonna have SEC coming up, factory, reactor, all that stuff coming into play here early. And as the Reaper will start to ping around on a few of those Zerglings, getting a little bit of damage done to begin with. Nothing too major, nothing too out of the ordinary just yet. And Reaper just pinging around, so yeah, so far so good. Double gas from Clem, guys, so playing a very different style to what he played in games 1 and 2. Straight away gonna look for this game 3 to be of a little bit of a different kind of variety compared to what we've been having beforehand, so it's going to be playing that, like I said, just a little differently here. As our queen and our lings will settle down together with each other on the low ground, and we will get a starport building on the side of Clem as well. Obviously, if you're going to skip the 3cc and go double gas, you will build a starport typically, unless you're doing something really wonky like a second factory or something along those lines. That, of course, would have been even more wild. Hellions on the way out. Starport is going to lift off and move on over to the tech lab. Barracks will land and just going to see our SCV will wander down the low ground. A little Reaper grenade going to pop the queens to the side and just going to have the queens continuing to hit those Hellions. So again, so far so good with that. And the Banshee, the Cloak, all continuing through at the moment on the side of Clem. Again, so far so good, I would say. Early on in this one. With the Banshee coming in a little quicker this time, maybe a bit more potential for that to really deal some damage in these early stages. So that's something we do have to watch for, be cautious about. Range is going to go nibbling through that Overlord. A few Hellions turning back away on the left-hand side. Well, Queen's going to hit the Banshee, and Banshee, obviously not having Cloak yet, is unfortunately going to take a few shots of damage there, so a little bit of damage dealt. Turn it back around. Killing Nest and the Lair on the way up from Solar, gonna move us over there. Rex continuing down, Engineering's base building up. A couple of Marines will get on top of and kill off this Overlord, so it will get felled here. Just going to see our Hellions pulling back around to the bottom side. Coming through and looking for potentially some of the creep spread here to be cleaned out. Our drones and our extractors all on the way out. And Clem will be the first to upgrade, so a Lair and a Baling Nest on the way. And Evo Chambers are a secondary priority typically for the Zerg. We should be seeing Bane speed, and as I say that, there it is. And now there's the Evo Chambers too. If this was a 3cc, Clem would probably have even faster upgrades, and because it's double gas, and Cloak She's initially the engineering base come a bit later in the game plan. And so, it's not a huge lead, but it is still a lead despite it being a little bit more tech heavy from Clem at first. I'm just actually getting rid of an extractor, and that's kind of cute because, you know, gas count and stuff like this at this kind of point in the game is sort of the thing that can slow the Zerg down pretty inadvertently. It's a difficult thing to see having an effect. I do definitely think it has quite the effect a lot of the time, so... There's an armory coming up, and these couple Banshees still nibbling away at that hatchery, which will be going down, so hatchery will fall. Alley upgrades, bin speed all coming through, the Lings coming out as well. Tactical Siege, again, Marines, Halberds all setting up and just ready to press on forward, so I'm getting a nice little position here on inside and out, and is going to start by knocking down an Overlord. Solar is going to have a wrap of units, getting a few onto the Siege tank, letting the Halberds though take the fall. Clem is able to continue trading and then lift and leave. Resources lost will show. It's still not terrible for Clem, but it's not quite the efficiency you're looking for as a Terran player out of TvZ. See our barracks continuing out for the moment as well, so just continue to bring those in. +2 attack, combat shield, all of that's still being brought into play. This is going to be seeing our Lings getting across and forcing those medevacs to lift up and get the hell away. Things will open up the rocks down on the bottom right-hand side of things as well. Marine's going to try and clean up a little bit of creep spread. With Solar just going straight into the infestation pit, he is not holding back on potentially progressing straight toward his hive here, so... He's looking to kind of get straight to that now as more Ling Bane action coming forward. The Queens as well also making their play forward here for the moment. Marines have to lift. Ling Bane was coming through there and just going to be seen out. Another few Marines stemming forward, a little bit of creep spread that can be denied. Okay, these Lings start to go down, and Marines will load back up and pull back into the center of the map here. 13 Marines at once from Clem. Playing this 8-Rax is obviously very committed, wants to just go and go and go. Clem was one of the very best with 8-Rax. I feel like one of the cool things with Clem when he played 8-Rax was always the fact that at certain points he'd be like, man, yes, I'm very committed to this, but I'm doing enough to justify taking a 4th base anyway. So maybe watch for that, as actually there is a 4th CC about to go down. But for a long time, people thought 8-Rax, if you'd gone for it, there's no point ever building a 4th base, because if you're not ending the game, it's not good enough, right? The Clem really was, I think, for me, one of the first to really identify, yeah, that's not quite true, right? You can actually just build a 4th base, you can transition out. You just got to find the right balance of, this was enough with the 8-Rax, this was worth committing to, and now I can start leaving it behind, you know? Tank shots are coating the Lings and Banes at the moment, so some decent damage across the board there as we come back forward again. This hatchery will be knocked down immediately and just going to continue through with everything on the bio side of things. Tanks really working the ledges on this map, really utilizing the corners and making the Ling Bane have to run around a lot of those corners and take extra shots before they can start fighting with the siege tanks. Solar's trying to get to lurkers, which is obviously risky when Clem's putting on this much pressure, but if he gets there, it's obviously very good for him, because then Clem's not really going to have tech of his own to deal with it. He has a massive surround from Solar, but Clem gets out of it, using the tanks as choke points to help the Marines get away. Now decides to turn and fight with the firepower to shoot down the Banes. He loses a lot of his tanks, but a lot of Marines remain with a 30 army supply lead, and he is pressing forward with a lot of the army supply of Solar caught up in production. This might be an opportunity for Clem to get something done, despite now the lack of siege tanks. There are not a lot of Balins ready for Solar just yet, and Clem is going to get on top of this left side base. Solar is going to give it up. He's not going to stand and fight here. He knows that this base cannot be held onto. I wonder, maybe he could counterattack right now, if he has enough. I mean, it's a tough question, right? But If he could counterattack right now, that could be great for him. Get across the other side. He was building lurkers. He has now cancelled the lurkers. He was building 3 despite deciding to invest gas elsewhere, mostly into Banelings. Well, Banelings rolling up that ramp but not really doing much of anything. Clem continue to advance on forward, a 50 army supply lead. Solar put all of that investment into getting to lurkers, only to never really get to use them. Obviously, he never was able to get a lurker upgrade start because there's been so much pressure. Would have just been worth maybe trying to get the lurkers, you know, built anyways and just hoping. Perhaps. Bane's actually come crashing through pretty effectively. Clem has to be a little careful in the corner because of the spore as he lifts, and he does get out of there. We do see more Marine tank coming through from Clem to the bottom of the map. So away we go through the center. That's going to be seeing our +1 missiles, our +3 carapace continue coming through. Creep spread is being denied. I'm going to lose his Banshees. This is going to be his new direction of attack. Wants to hit the mining base of Solar. Mass oversaturation here. As you can tell, Solar wanted more bases than this. That's why it's been good for Clem to have been applying this pressure. Starts a fight here. Tank actually doing a lot of the absorption of damage. Viper will abduct the tank forwards. Clem has so many Marines. Is it enough to survive the Banelings and to fire through the Banelings most importantly as well? That is kind of becoming our question here as we sit on top of this bottom right base. Clem pulling back a little bit. These Marines continue to trade. Bane's looking to continue to slap on in. Couple tanks starting to go down, and Marines are just brute forcing it again on top of these Hydralisks. And I think that Clem might just about have enough to shut this down. Yes, he does. Clem is going to be the victorious in this best of 3. The aggression works here on inside and out. Not afraid to just keep it going. I mean, he had a 4th base behind this, now a 5th building up as well. He's still pretty committed in terms of units, though, right? Was not really teched up at all to properly deal with lurkers, should we have been able to get there in some way.